Well, we've been exploring the sound of Mark Knopfler and how he gets the sound he gets, and also I've basically been sort of posting the moves that Mark Knopfler makes, whether it's a choice of guitar or the way he approaches his picking, technique. I covered a little bit of the Strat stuff, the early Dire Straits, which is, it's pretty deep what he does, but I wanted to go into an acoustic clip too, because I couldn't cover it all in one clip. So I'm going to give you, 5 or 6 or whatever it is of my favorite moves that he does. That one is obviously, the sound of Romeo and Juliet. We know that one. But the thing about it is he plays it on a National-Reso-Phonic, a bit like this one. This is mine. This is Stacy. I've had this for many, many years. And his is slightly different, but it's the same. It's that sound. In this case, I've got it capoed up and I'm in open G tuning. But I'm not going to get into so much the licks today, but just more like the approach of Mark Knopfler, how he gets the sounds he gets, in case you're interested. So there's this sound, which in this case is the sound of a Reso-Phonic. I first heard it, I think, and I'm gonna take this off now and retune slightly. On the first Dire Straits album, but I wanted to mention also that he plays a decent slide. I like the way he plays the slide. Like everything Mark Knopfler does, it's tasty and it's not overly done. And when I heard Water of Love on that first Dire Straits album, I heard, let me grab my slide here. I heard the sound of unmistakably of a Reso-Phonic guitar. No, we never really, it was all new to us at that point. That was the first album, and I saw the tour. That first Dire Straits tour, I saw it in a club of like about 250 people, and they sounded amazing. But Water of Love, I just brought my my G string up to A, sort of a drop D tuning, too high, easier down to D. But again, this isn't specifically about that. It's more about tips of how he gets the sound he gets and what I like about it. But Water of Love, he also does. He plays slide on it. So it's the first time I heard the entire, well, not the entire, but the width and sort of bandwidth of what he could do on that first album, because we all heard Sultans of Swing and on a Strat and what he could do on there. That really amazing clean sound of finger picking on sweep picking on the Strat. But the acoustic guitar is a big part of Mark Knopfler's sound, and I'm gonna trace the idea that so the Reso-Phonic one is the use of a Reso-Phonic guitar. In his case, also use of up tuning, different tunings. And how he does that. He's still using that finger picking style that he does. Where he'll sometimes do like a sort of a thumb thing, right? He'll get a dead thumb going. Almost like a country sound. And he'll make it his own. So there's a couple of tips right there in that when you do the Reso-Phonic sound, if you get into slide, there's first of all there's the Reso-Phonic, there's the finger picking, and then there's the sound of it. And then there's the sound of a slide on Reso-Phonic, which you probably recognize that. There's that. So there's there's a couple of tips right there of how you can make maybe the Mark Knopfler techniques, make it your own. So you grab a Reso-Phonic and just start messing with it like that. And if you like this kind of stuff, hit me up at jimmydillon.com, because I've got a ton of lessons there that really take this kind of stuff apart. And in some cases, I've actually I've looked into some Dire Straits and Mark Knopfler songs and taught them, quite a few of them actually. And then, you know, the other things I wanted to mention, one of them is the sophistication with which Mark approaches the guitar. And I've mentioned before, he plays his strengths. You know, he doesn't overdo it, but yet his technique and his style is just like spot on. And he doesn't waste any notes. You know, I noticed that about him. He makes each lick count. He really does, and each lick tells a story. But I wanted to talk a little bit about you know, his chordal changes and how he does it, without getting into too much theory or anything like that. But like, for instance, I just recently learned a new one from his latest album, One Deep River. Or no, sorry, this one is on, I think this one is on Tracker, I'm not sure. But it's new to me because I just found it and I was like checking it out. But if you listen to the chord changes in this, you'll realize, or you'll maybe, you know, it'll dawn on you that he's definitely sophisticated in his choice without being overly jazzy or overly, you know, no amount of showing off at all. It suits the song. But this one, I'll play a little bit of it for you, and I'll give you an example. So it goes like a... Yeah, I love that. I love that. Sorry. Yeah. Man, you know, that just sends me. And it's his sense of that of melody and composition that I think sets him apart, in my mind anyway. The other thing I wanted to mention too is it's not necessarily just about guitar playing with him, because, you know, although we all, you know, recognize that he's an awesome guitar player and just, you know, world class in every way you can imagine, I don't want to discount his voice and the way he sings, not so much as a you know, a vocal gymnast, like you say, oh my gosh, you know, it's like a Whitney Houston kind of voice, or there's people that have a lot of chops. But with Knopfler, I think what strikes me is his voice is appropriate for the song, and he tells a story with it. You know, he's sort of like, guys I admire like that are like J.J. Cale, and I know that he was a big influence on Knopfler and Clapton and many other people, myself included. But it's that ease of not trying to oversing, but also, you know, singing with enough passion and enough conviction that it gets through. And also, you know, you can hear definitely, and he mentions this too in an interview I saw, you know, Bob Dylan influenced his, you know, there's a shiver in the park, you know, that in the park. It has that little bit of Dylan-esque with his, you know, incredible picking and stuff along with it. So what I noticed is I've been following Knopfler since, you know, the Dire Straits, the first tour I saw him, and I was hooked with Sultans and you know, that Walking on the Wild West End, and that whole first album was fantastic. I still love it. And then, you know, I also followed the Dire Straits evolution. I got really hooked with also that last Dire Straits album, not counting the live album On the Night, but the one On Every Street. I thought that was a really cool album. And what I noticed about that album, and you will too if you've listened to it or you're familiar with it, it really charts a little bit of where he was going to go as Mark Knopfler, a solo artist. And then, you know, like when Sting was with the Police, and then you in some of the pieces there, you can get a glimmer of where he was going to go on his solo stuff, and then he took it, you know, of course, far. Doesn't diminish what he did in the Police, and nor does it diminish what Mark Knopfler did with Dire Straits. But I'm a huge fan of all his work, and so there's the voice and the way he sings. You know, there's a song called Fade to Black. I wonder where you are tonight. Probably out on a rampage somewhere. Having known to take delight, getting into somebody's hair. You always had the knack, fade to black. There's that approach too. Now on that one, I think I'm not positive. I think he's playing a fat jazz body guitar, but I can get a similar sound with this. But I love the changes that he does there, and I love the voicings, and also the way he has his guitar and voice together, and they accompany each other so darn well. So that's another tip I got from Mark Knopfler and I've used that as a jumping off spot for sometimes some writing or when I've recorded, because my voice is in a pretty much similar range as his. I think I might have a little bit higher range, but not that much. So it's nice when you find somebody that either you're playing and or your voice resonates with, I guess. In his case, he does stuff I can do, is what I'm really trying to say. I mean, I don't want to be Mark Knopfler. I mean, I do actually, but I love his body of work. But I also understand and recognize that I got to do my own thing. So I've taken from we all take from we're all derivative to some degree with what we grow up with and stuff. But who better to study and to really check out than Mark Knopfler and all his work. And the last thing I wanted to say in terms of his style and his approach, because really what this is about is the Knopfler approach. And his collaborations have been really amazing. If you're familiar with his solo stuff, he's collaborated with Van Morrison, Emmylou Harris, James Taylor on Sailing to Philadelphia album. He does a cool thing with her. And more recently with someone named Ruth Moody, who's in a band called the Waylon Jennys. And he's done some great stuff with her that I've happened to listen to and study. So in terms of his artistry, there's my fifth or sixth tip about Mark Knopfler, is not only his singing and his composing, which his sense of lyrics, I think, is uncanny, really, and really kind of all his own. I don't know anybody that can touch him. I mean, obviously Dillon, but we've all been influenced by that. The folk scare of the '60s, and then all the magical stuff that he came up with. But and he had his share of influences, and you can hear him for sure. And he'll tell you about it. I mean, he loved Ray Charles. He loves Clapton. They've done a lot of stuff together. Another collaboration. So I think having an uncanny ability to pair up with other talents in his his universe that fit with his work. I think he has a great sense of timing and taste. When I talk about the 4 T's: touch, taste, time, taste, and whatever else you got, tremolo. In his case, but his use of all those things, of touch and time and taste and everything else, space. This sense of space is really what he sort of sets him apart. So I hope you got something out of that. And again, this is not, if you want to study Mark Knopfler's songs and stuff, there's so much stuff on the internet. There's some great stuff on YouTube with obviously Sultans of Swing and many others. So there's a guy, I think he might be, he's European and I don't know his name, but he does a beautiful job on YouTube. I can't think of his name, but you can check him out. He does it like a split screen where he shows you actual parts, both electric and acoustic. But for today's visitation, I just wanted to say these are some of the approaches, the 5 or 6 approaches that he does. He does many more too. I mean, he really does. It's not just the clean Strat, it's the dirty Les Paul, you know, that whole sound. And I'll probably get to that down the road, but I wanted to at least show you what it sounds like to play, you know, the National with some slide, and then, you know, just a regular acoustic. And, you know, sometimes he'll get that country, he'll get that country thing going quite a bit. I mean, he did do an album with Chet Atkins, a couple of them, I think, Neck and Neck. Anybody that can play alongside of Chet Atkins, you gotta respect that. So Mark Knopfler, our hats off to you. Thanks for all the inspiration and all the great songs and playing. I don't think he tours anymore, but I saw him countless times. Always great, never disappointed, and always had, you know, something new and fresh to say. So that's my 5 acoustic tips for the day in terms of what I love about Mark Knopfler and the influence it's had on me. And if you enjoy him as much as I do, check out his stuff, and also check me out at jerrydillon.com. And because I have a lot of lessons that pertain to this type of playing, both electric and acoustic and slide and national and all that. Because I've tried to make that, you know, my thing is I play a lot of different styles along the way, because I'm just very interested, whether it's, you know, Latin. And he actually gets into that sometimes. I mean, if you listen to Dire Straits, you know, it almost has that Latin, it has like a flamenco. What is that? So that has to do with, I think, you know, whatever his, you know, coming up influence was, but he's managed to challenge that beautifully and channel it. You know, he challenges it in the sense that he'll make it his own. He'll take a flamenco sound or a flamenco scale, whether it's, you know, whatever it is. I'm not a big theory guy, as you probably know by now, but I know what I like, and I like Mark Knopfler. So thanks for coming by today. We'll see you down the road.